Hey, Bobby Manning here, Josue Pavón for another edition of the Garden Report after the Celtics beat the Grizzlies. I'm excited. We're about to go watch it, but first let's talk about Robert Williams. Looked good in the second half, finished a few key alley-oops, found two teammates for threes, offensive rebounding early, things we've seen from Rob, and mostly the look of Rob that we've seen overall since he's been back. Some great moments, emphatic dunks late. But in between, you're like, all right, what's with that positioning? Or following too much. Right. But the biggest one of all that we've talked about on the Garden Report is the lack of burst. A few missed layups around the rim. Got blocked again today by Santi Aldama. Are you concerned?
A little bit, Bob, because we don't know what version of Rob we're going to see at the end of the season and going into the postseason, and that's really what this is about, right? I mean, everyone can talk about the injuries, plaguing his performance, but as the season goes on and as we carry through February and into March, I mean, we have to see some glimpses of that old Rob. Now, we have in spurts, but it's hard to say we're not concerned when we haven't seen it put together on stretches, right? And of course, not being available is tough. It's tough to find your stride, find that consistency. But hopefully he can find somewhat of that between now and the All-Star break. Here's
what he had to say. I asked him about how he's feeling after the ankle injury that cost him 2 games recently, as well as just a year later as he approaches the 1-year anniversary of that injury in March.
At this point in the year, even I guess comparing it to last year, you're obviously playing at a very high level last year. Do you feel like you kind of have that burst and the athleticism and everything that you might have lost during that surgery and kind of the recovery and everything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Last year playing through the playoffs was a difficult time for me. Definitely feel better, and I feel like it's still another level I can reach.
What's going to take to get there?
Repetition, playing.
So he's never going to admit, I think, that he's limited.
Yeah.
So he's always optimistic, says he's feeling good, doesn't want to come out of games. He plays 32 minutes in this one. I think the conditioning's where it needs to be.
Well, that's good, though. That's good. You want to keep him on that same pace, that same track, yeah.
The long-term worry we've always had, though, is that this surgery is just going to cause irreversible harm to him. And he'll never be the same guy, limits the length of his career. And I think you saw it in his answer for Media Day about the decision he made. He knew the risk. He came back as quick as he could. I think he even pushed faster than we imagined, 3 weeks between the day of the surgery and that playoff appearance in Brooklyn. And he said it was worth it because they play in the finals. And I can't disagree with that.
Right.
But if he is limited or reduced the rest of his career, not only is it a bummer, but I think it has a substantial impact on this team where they don't have the big depth into the future. Grant's a free agent this summer. And the guy you picked up in Mike Muscala just doesn't look like a Rob replacement or insurance option to me, even though he was a good addition.
But that's exactly what he is, right?
He's got to be.
I mean, I don't think that's what they're looking for, though, right, Bobby? I feel like with Rob's concerns, if you will, right, and Brad Stevens has to have at least some of those, and he talked about that Friday night, right? I think with that being said, he went out to get a big that does everything that Rob doesn't. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, right? Because the 3-point touch, someone that can do things that Rob doesn't, because Rob is going to be able to kind of find his way on that offense, and maybe you overshadow his struggles a bit, right? When you have
so you're saying you're looking to compliment him.
Exactly. You're looking to compliment him, whereas I'm thinking the same thing, right? Why I'm talking about Mo Bamba a week ago or the Timberwolves, the Nas Reed. Everyone was thinking of like a Rob Light, or like someone who's similar to Rob, right? Vanderbilt, but Celtics with the other direction. And I think that has a lot to do with that because Brad Stevens looking to compliment him and make things easier for him. And I think scoring around the rim is a concern, but when you're looking at Rob as a player and as a scorer on that offensive end, that's better for him, right? I mean, if he should get used to making tough layups around the rim, he should be able to absorb contact and finish, and you want to see more of that. So maybe the easy alley-oops, obviously it's an advantage for you, but you also want Rob to work on that part of the game where he can score when you need him to score. He can score around the rim. It doesn't have to be via an alley-oop or a wide open dunk.
He needs to look for his own shot for sure. There's no doubt about that.
And I think finishing around the rim and getting that down is part of his development.
And he's talked about intending to do that. I think Derek White did a good job accentuating him later in the game, finding him, looking for him, getting him touches. Those 2 passes, as I said to open the segment, vital plays.
Tatum and Jalen were doing the same thing. I mean, now it's a little different because there's no Jalen out there, so Tatum has to adjust. But you're seeing the same thing from guys like Derek, Malcolm Brogdon, who didn't play in this one. He does the same thing. You're seeing these guys want to get him involved. So I think it is a process. However, I didn't expect it to be this long. I didn't anticipate it to be this long. We'll see how he responds between now and the All-Star.
Well, the one thing I'll say is they do need him to win a championship, I think. I think they need him to be right.
Right.
But there's a lot of guys they can go to now out there, and they all play well. Good Luke Cornett minutes again tonight. Muscala 4-7 in his second game with the Celtics. I talked to Al Horford after the game.
Still want to see a little more from Grant, though. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Consummate professional, even from an early age. And you see that with him. He just goes out there,
Right.
does his job, plays a very narrow role, wants to fall in line, like we talked about in our last video in terms of the deadline and buyout additions. This isn't a Jakob Poeltl looking for a big role, though I would have loved to have seen Poeltl. I'll still stand by that.
But that would have grabbed minutes from the other guys. I just don't think that's what they're trying to do right now, especially when you're the number one
Yeah, you would
seed.
have had no more Cornette, no more Blake.
Exactly.
There,
you shake things up, and I think it would have been an adjustment period where you don't necessarily have to do that. You have the best record in the Eastern Conference. They believe in these guys.
See.
I mean, you might, because I think you. All right, put it this way. They would have been very concerned about Rob if they were to go that route.
You didn't need to do it if you're healthy, but that's a big if.
Right. That's a big if. Exactly. And look, maybe this is the year. A couple of years from now, we'll look back and say, man, that Celtics team, Rob, he wasn't himself that year, but they still managed to win the championship anyways. I mean, maybe that's the case, maybe not. Maybe he turns the corner here and we see that same Rob that we saw last season. Either way, I think the Celtics are doing their best to prepare for either situation. And I think that's what Brad Stevens did. He addressed that by making that trade.
That's
Mike
all for us
Muscala.
tonight. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mike Muscala plays the second game in Boston. I'm off to Milwaukee. I'm heading over there.
Yeah,
for
we
a
didn't
day.
talk about that at the end of the show. I mean, I guess there's a lot going on, but I'm like, man, by the way, this is a huge game that's coming up. Bobby's going to be there in Milwaukee, so I can't wait because obviously he'll have great coverage, but also it's a heck of a matchup where the Bucks are hot and rolling right now.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we'll
gonna be
see
a
what
good one.
impact Muscala and company have on that game, how well Rob's able to play on that night, and of course a back-to-back coming up on Wednesday. So
It's gonna be great.
I'd imagine Horford or Rob, maybe Rob will sit out of that game on Tuesday, right? And then Horford on Wednesday against Detroit.
I would think so, yeah.
That's a tricky thing that you're going to have to sit out one of those guys in that game.
And
but
Tatum's going to sit the following game, right?
Tatum's out
right
Wednesday.
before the All-Star break.
So
yeah.
maybe you play everybody on Tuesday and sit everybody on Wednesday. That might be the move. And
Probably.
just have like a full rest Rob and Al on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll see. Stay tuned for that. We'll be out in Milwaukee, as we said. Celtics All Access for segments starting on Tuesday. CLNS Media for all the post-game coverage tonight. Peyton Pritchard had some interesting comments. We talked about him in our walk-off.
Check us out.
We talked about the buyout candidates. And, of course, we always love to talk about our sponsors. HelloFresh.com/Garden65.
Yes.
Gets you 65% off your order there, as well as free shipping.
Fellas, ladies, it's Valentine's Day, right? Come on.
Go
you know
get
the
it.
vibes. You can cook a meal, save some money, and do it in a way that will completely impress your significant other. Don't even tell them about it. Surprise them with HelloFresh.
Athletic Greens as well, athleticgreens.com/Garden. 5 free travel packs as well as a year's supply of vitamin D. We'll see you next time here on the Garden Report. Josue Pavón, Bobby Manning.